You ever have one of those moments where everything just snaps? Like your reality fractures right down the middle and the person you thought you knew best turns into a stranger in a split second? That was me frozen in the hallway gripping a half-full mug like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I was just passing by our bedroom on my way to the kitchen when I heard her voice. My wife's voice. Soft, intimate, and meant for someone else. "I don't even want to be close to him anymore," she said, followed by a light, cruel laugh, the kind that didn't belong to someone wrestling with guilt. No, this was someone who'd already made her decision. I stopped dead. My chest tightened. She was on the phone, lying on our bed like nothing was wrong, her legs swinging gently like a bored teenager. Completely relaxed. Not a single trace of remorse. I didn't move. Just stood there, listening, trying to breathe past the pounding in my ears. Her tone dropped, barely above a whisper, but every syllable sliced through me. I don't feel anything when he touches me. I let him, but it's nothing. No spark. Then a pause. Another laugh. A knowing, confident chuckle. Of course I want to. I just have to be careful he's not an idiot. That's when something inside me went cold. Not sad. Not angry. Just frozen. The betrayal wasn't just in her words, it was in the way she said them. Casual. Dismissive. Like I wasn't even worth the courtesy of secrecy anymore. Like I was a leftover she'd already thrown away in her mind. I could have confronted her. Stormed in, demanded answers. Asked who she was talking to and what exactly she meant by be careful. But what was the point? That wouldn't erase what I'd heard. That wouldn't change who she'd become. So I turned around. Walked back down the hall. Set my mug on the counter and let her words soak in like acid. She didn't want to be near me? Fine. She wouldn't have to. She didn't feel anything when I held her? Perfect. Because from that moment on, she'd never have to feel me again. She thought I was clueless. Predictable. A man who'd beg or explode. But she was wrong. I didn't shout. Didn't cry. Didn't even argue. I just stopped. Stopped initiating. Stopped checking in. Stopped being available. I became a shadow in my own house. At first, she didn't even notice. Too busy texting whoever it was, smiling down at her phone, humming as she got ready in the mornings. Probably thought I was distracted or dealing with work stress. Good. Let her believe that. I'd sit across from her at dinner, eating like a robot, eyes on my plate. No small talk. No eye contact. At night, when she used to nuzzle up against me, I'd roll over, leaving a void between us. She said nothing. Not yet. It took a week for her to speak up. One morning, as I rinsed my coffee cup, she hovered near the sink. "You okay?" she asked. I turned my head slightly, met her eyes, and smiled. Not the warm kind. This one had edges. "Yeah. Why?" She blinked. "You've just been quiet." I shrugged. "Just thinking." That was all I gave her. She waited, expecting more. I walked past her, grabbed my keys, and left. Let her feel that shift. That gnawing doubt. The same way I had when I heard her throw away everything we'd built. The unraveling started slow. Little things. Subtle. The kind that creep up on you. She used to love Friday night movies, us wrapped in a blanket, laughing at dumb scenes. So when she walked in one evening and found me halfway through a movie we used to save for us, she didn't say a word. But her smile faltered. And that was just the beginning. She paused in the doorway, caught off guard. "You started without me?" she asked, trying to keep her voice light. I didn't even look over. "Didn't think you'd be into it," I said flatly. No pause. No invitation to join. I didn't even hit pause on the movie. She lingered for a second, then slowly sat at the far end of the couch, rigid, unsure. Good. Let her feel that silence. The next night I came home late, later than usual. She was already waiting, leaning against the counter, arms folded like she was ready for a fight. "Where were you?" she asked. I dropped my keys in the bowl. "Out." "With who?" "Just some people," I said, casual. Her brow tightened. "People?" I met her eyes, unreadable. "Yeah, people." Then I walked past her, calm and collected, leaving her alone with her racing thoughts. That was the first time I saw it, that flicker in her eyes. Uncertainty. Fear. She wasn't used to being ignored. Wasn't used to me not caring, not checking in. I used to fight for her attention. That guy? He was gone. She wanted me to fade into the background of her life? Fine. She could live in the quiet and see how it felt. The real shift hit 2 weeks in. By then, I wasn't just distant, I was absent. I moved through the house like a ghost. I spoke only when needed, short and polite. Never started a conversation. And it started getting to her. "Want to go out to dinner tonight?" she asked one night, trying to sound nonchalant. "Nah," I said, not even looking up from my book. She hesitated. We could try that new place you mentioned a while back? I glanced at her. A test. She was checking to see if I still cared. If I'd jump at the chance to rebuild. I didn't bite. Not really feeling it. Then I turned the page. The next morning, as I pulled on a shirt, she reached out and touched my arm. I flinched, not a lot, but enough. Enough to make her hand recoil. Enough to send the message. She stepped back like I'd shocked her. That was the first crack. She was beginning to feel it, the weight of my absence pressing in like a vacuum. A few nights later, I heard her banging around the kitchen. Not cooking. Just cleaning aggressively. A nervous tick. Then she did something different. She grabbed a bottle of wine and 2 glasses, walked into the living room and set them down on the table like it was an offering. I looked up from my phone. What's this? She gave a small, nervous smile. Thought we could have a drink. Like old times? She was trying to patch holes in a ship she'd already sunk. Trying to fix something she didn't realize she'd shattered until the silence echoed back louder than my voice ever had. I looked at the wine, then back at her. No anger. Just clarity. I'm heading to bed. I stood up, stretched, and left her there, 2 glasses of wine on the table untouched. She didn't cry. But I saw it. The drop in her shoulders. The flicker of panic she tried to swallow. And that's when I knew. She was starting to understand. Starting to feel what I had felt, alone, invisible, irrelevant. Realizing she wasn't special to me anymore. That I could go hours, days, without thinking about her. And it was breaking her. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to her quietly return the wine glasses to the cupboard. And for the first time in weeks, I slept like a rock. Because this was just the beginning. I thought I'd already seen her desperation peek through the cracks. Little things. A second glance that held too long. A question she repeated because her mind was somewhere else, buried in guilt. She was trying to keep up the mask, act like nothing was wrong. But the truth was, she wasn't used to being invisible. And she still didn't realize that I knew. That changed exactly 3 weeks after I first heard her whisper that she didn't even want to hug me anymore. That was the night I confirmed it. The affair. I'll give her this, she'd been meticulous. Late-night texts wiped clean. Phone flipped screen down every time. A little extra time at work here and there. Spread out just enough to avoid suspicion. But not careful enough. I was lying in bed, mindlessly scrolling, when her phone lit up on the nightstand. She was in the bathroom, towel drying her hair. She hadn't noticed the screen glow. One message. Just a preview. Tonight was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. Signed, just the letter M. I stared at it. Not shocked. Not even angry. I didn't flinch, didn't break a sweat. I'd suspected for a while. This just put a name, well, a letter to it. She walked out of the bathroom, laughing at something on her phone, completely unaware. I didn't say a word. But inside, something flipped. Up until then, I'd been playing a slow, quiet game. Withdrawing, letting the distance grow, letting her fall into the space she'd created. But now? Now I had proof. Now I had control. The next morning, I called in sick. She left for work like nothing was wrong, gave me a half-hearted kiss on the cheek, keys jangling as she stepped out the door. I waited exactly 20 minutes, then opened my laptop. Time for step 1, find out who M was. Didn't take long. A quick check of our phone bill and there it was, one number showing up again and again. Always after 10 p.m. Consistent. Sloppy. Then I dug into her social media. Private, but not bulletproof. People are creatures of habit. Tagging friends, checking into places. Patterns. And then I found him. Michael. Mid-level exec at a firm she collaborated with. The kind of guy who oozes fake confidence, designer watches, overly white teeth, posed pictures with overpriced cocktails. His feed read like a catalog of cliches. He thought he was slick. Thought he was winning. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Over the next few days, I turned into something else. Quiet. Calculated. I became both a ghost and a hunter. I tracked their messages, every little breadcrumb. I followed her once, kept my distance as she worked late at a boutique hotel downtown. I even planted a basic Bluetooth tracker beneath her bumper. Legal. Simple. Just enough to know where she went. And finally, I hired a private investigator. Because I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to dismantle the fantasy she built brick by lying brick. I wasn't just going to expose them, I was going to erase the illusion they built. I was going to obliterate every ounce of security she thought she had. It didn't take long. Less than a week after hiring the private investigator, I had a digital war chest, texts, call logs, timestamped photos, even grainy hotel footage of the two of them walking into a room together, pretending no one saw. But I saw. I had it all. I could have ended it right there, thrown the proof at her, watched her squirm, unravel, beg. But that would have been mercy. She didn't give me that. She took her time slowly gutting our marriage, day by day. I owed her the same patience. And then, when she least expected it, I'd cut the floor out from under her. The trap was set. The night before I made my move, she surprised me. She came and sat closer than she had in weeks. There was a look in her eyes, like she was trying to climb back into the space she'd burned down. "Hey," she said, soft, almost hesitant. I turned to her, face neutral. "Yeah?" She bit her lip. "I feel like we've been off." She actually said that. Like she wasn't the reason everything between us had collapsed. "I guess," I replied, nonchalant. She sighed almost dramatically. "I don't want us to fall apart." Fall apart? We were wreckage. She just hadn't looked around long enough to notice the smoke. So I did something cruel. I smiled just like I used to. Gentle. Familiar. Reassuring. Me neither. Her shoulders dropped. Relief flooded her expression. She thought she was winning. Thought I was coming back. She had no idea tomorrow would be the day everything shattered. The reveal. She was brushing her teeth when I placed the envelope on her pillow. Clean. White. Innocent looking. Inside, every receipt of her betrayal, texts, photos, call logs, screenshots. Evidence she couldn't talk her way out of. She walked in humming lightly, towel slung around her shoulders. She froze the moment she saw it. Her eyes flicked to mine. "What's this?" I didn't answer. She picked it up slowly, hands trembling as she opened it. Then silence, just the faint rustle of paper and the sudden halt of her breathing. Her eyes scanned the contents. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Finally, she looked up. Her face was ghost white. "Where did you?" Her voice cracked. Didn't matter. She knew. Knew she was caught. Knew the game was over. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, calm as ever. Then I smiled. Not kindly. "You don't have to hug me anymore," I said. My voice was level, almost soothing. "You don't have to pretend. You're free now." She opened her mouth, maybe to lie, maybe to plead, but I raised a hand. No arguments. No explanations. No apologies. Let it sit. Let her feel the silence press down on her like a weight. Because I don't care anymore. The final blow. Her breath caught. Her fingers clenched around the envelope like it could protect her. Her eyes welled up, not from remorse, but panic. Not from guilt, but realization. She expected rage, tears, begging. What she got was worse. Indifference. And that was what broke her. Regret doesn't destroy you all at once. It rots you slowly. And I watched it begin right there when her mouth fell open and nothing came out. She tried. Oh, she tried. "I can explain," she said, voice shaking. It's not what you think." I laughed. A deep, honest laugh. She flinched like I'd slapped her. "Not what it looks like?" I echoed. "Don't insult both of us." She blinked. Then switched gears. "I made a mistake," she whispered, eyes softening like she was the victim now. "I wasn't thinking. I never meant to hurt you." I tilted my head like I was genuinely curious. "How long?" That stopped her cold. Her lips quivered. I let the silence strangle her. And when she finally answered, it was barely a breath. "For months." She said it barely above a whisper. "For months." I already knew. But hearing it from her lips, watching her choke on her own shame, that hit different. It made it real. I nodded slowly. "Months of mistakes," I said, voice even. "That's impressive." Her eyes glossed over. She tried again. "It wasn't like that," she whispered, inching closer, reaching for my hand. I took a step back. Just one. Barely a shift. But it hit her like a punch. That was the moment she understood. I wasn't mad. I wasn't hurt. I just didn't care. And that, more than any outburst she expected, was what started to unravel her. The days that followed? A symphony of silence. I didn't leave. Didn't argue. Didn't even acknowledge the wreckage between us. I just existed near her, but untouchable. Cold. Hollow. She tried to close the gap. Made me coffee in the morning. I poured it straight down the drain. Asked if I wanted dinner. I ordered takeout and ate alone. Sat beside me on the couch, acting like things were fine. I stood up and walked away. Every quiet rejection hit harder than any shouting match ever could. She expected rage. A fight. Some explosion of grief or betrayal. Instead, I gave her indifference. Because she wasn't worth the storm. And I made sure she felt that. The rail break came a week later. I was scrolling through my phone in the living room when I heard it, her crying in the kitchen. Not soft sobs. Not crocodile tears. This was guttural. Real. The kind that comes from a soul finally realizing what it lost. And I didn't move. I let it happen. Until she snapped. She stormed in, eyes red, hair a mess, fists clenched and shaking. "Are you seriously just gonna ignore me forever?" she shouted. I looked up, slow and deliberate. Met her eyes. Smirked. "Yes. One word. That's all it took." She staggered like I'd slapped her. "Why won't you just yell at me?" she screamed. "Why won't you fight? Say something." I set my phone down. Leaned forward. "You don't deserve my anger," I said, calm as ice. "You don't deserve me." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I was stupid," she whispered. You thought I'd never leave," I finished for her. "You thought no matter how many lies you told, how many nights you gave to him, I'd still be here. Waiting. Like a fool." She swallowed hard, breath trembling. "I was wrong." I exhaled, nodded once. "Yeah. You were." And that was it. That was when it all collapsed for her. Not just our marriage. Not just the trust. But the version of herself she thought she could protect, the one who believed there'd always be a safety net under her betrayal. I gave her 2 more weeks. 2 weeks of cold silence. Of her trying to pull me back in. Of her living in the ruins she built with her own hands. Then I made my final move. I packed my bags. Not all of them, just enough for her to know it was permanent. She came home to find me zipping the last one shut. She froze. Voice trembling. "Wait, where are you going?" I didn't stop. Didn't answer. "Can we just talk?" I slung the bag over my shoulder and finally looked her in the eyes. Smiled that same cold, detached smile I gave her the night I left the envelope on the pillow. We already did. Then I walked past her, no drama, no last words. Just clarity. She didn't follow. Didn't call out. Because she knew. There was nothing left to say. And as I stepped out into a life without her, I didn't feel pain. Or sadness. Only peace. She wanted distance. Now she had it. Forever. She wanted thrill. She wanted to escape my touch, chase excitement, break out of the life we built. Well, now she had everything she asked for. And that was the most brutal punishment I could have given her. See, regret isn't loud. It's a whisper that follows you everywhere. A shadow that clings to you in the silence, in the empty spaces where love used to breathe. It makes the air heavier with each inhale until you're suffocating under the weight of what you threw away. And my ex-wife, was drowning in it. I made sure of that. That night, I didn't just walk out. I vanished. Erased myself from her world. Blocked her number. Deleted every message. Ignored every mutual friend who tried to play middleman. I became nothing more than a ghost. A memory she couldn't touch, couldn't reach, couldn't fix. She chose her road. And I let her walk it alone. Then came the fallout. See, her affair wasn't just something she did to me. It was a wrecking ball that hit everything around her. And I made sure it didn't stay a secret. Her family? Her friends? Her coworkers? They all found out. But the real hit? I sent the receipts to Michael's wife. She didn't waste a second. She tore his world down with the same fire my ex used to burn ours. Filed for divorce on the spot. Took him for everything she could. I didn't have to do much, just handed her the truth and she did the rest. As for my ex, she found out the hard way that her little fantasy wasn't built to last. Michael didn't want a future. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a thrill, and when the high wore off, so did he. They lasted 2 weeks after I left. Then poof, he was gone. And she was truly, completely, irreversibly alone. The final blow came quietly. By then, I'd rebuilt. Got my own place. Set new routines. Found peace in the kind of silence that doesn't hurt, it heals. A life that was mine, untouched by betrayal. Clean. Then one night, months later, she found a way to message me. I stared at the screen. "Can we talk? Please. I just need to see you." I almost laughed. Predictable. She gambled a good man for a cheap thrill. Thought she could rewrite the story, salvage the wreckage. But some bridges don't just burn, they collapse. I didn't respond. Didn't type a word. Just blocked the number. Let her sit with her regrets. Let her live in the wreckage she built, the silence she once craved, the distance she demanded. Because I had already won. And the worst part for her? She'd spend the rest of her life knowing it. People say revenge is best served cold. But this wasn't revenge. This was justice. She lost everything. And she had no one to blame but herself. As for me, I walked away without a scratch.